So this is going to be the real test, my Pixel and POV in Mauritius, unedited, straight from the beach. Now, I've been on this constant search to find the perfect travel camera and have spent way more money than I should on this quest. And after my most recent trip abroad, I now think that it's possible I was looking in all the wrong places for that camera, as I may have had what I was searching for the whole time already in my pocket.
Okay, so here I am in Mauritius on my travels. I've gone to both Dubai and now I'm here, and I've taken the Google Pixel 8 Pro with me. I think it may be the best overall travel camera for me. Let me show you some evidence as why. Okay, bye.
But before I get into all that, let me go back because I hadn't meant to use my phone at all on this trip. Yet immediately on the plane ride out, I realized there's something to being able to get a perfectly exposed shot with one click from my window seat to then, on day one, spotting something far off on a distance as I sat poolside. So after collecting far too many proper travel cameras, I think I'm ready to sell off a few, as I'm also ready to now consider that my phone may be good enough, and not just for taking casual snaps, but as a dependable device for travel photography and videography to actually be able to capture those rare moments on a holiday with the family that you want to look back on a decade from now, which means that the image quality needs to be to some extent future-proof, which has me asking, is a smartphone like the Google Pixel 8 Pro worth it on its own, or really any phone from the last year or two, as your main travel camera? Would you trust it? And do you think in the very near future we may live in a world where software becomes more important than hardware? Now, I think in a few years we may not need to choose, as I have a crazy idea of what cameras in the future might be 1 or 2 generations out. So, for example, the Sony a7 VI or the a7C IV, which will launch around the time we will get the Pixel 13 or 14 Pro, but could also happen a lot sooner than we think. Now, I've had the Google Pixel 8 Pro for about 6 months now, but at the tail end of last year, I went on a massive trip to both the Middle East to Dubai and then to the African island of Mauritius. And actually, my last trip here was 6 years ago, where I only had my Pixel 2 with me. And I will compare some pics from that trip as well, but back then, I regretted not bringing a proper camera with me. So that's why I think this go around, I was probably overcompensating for that, and I brought way too much gear with me. 2 full-frame Sony cameras, tons of lenses, a drone, a GoPro, and then my newly purchased Pixel 8 Pro. But this was an attempt to find the best travel camera between those 2 Sonys, and then I was shocked by how much I actually reached for my phone when I wanted to capture something quickly instead of the cameras I was testing out, for really 2 main reasons other than just the speed of use. And I will compare the phone pics to the camera shots so you can observe for yourself if in fact there are clear advantages that my phone has in both photography and, more surprisingly, with video as well. So I'm wrapping this POV series here in Mauritius to show you what the Pixel can actually do in a properly picturesque setting like this as I'm strolling the beach, as this is the quintessential travel destination to take a camera. Plus, I've already covered the opposite subject matter in my previous Pixel video, link below, a super futuristic cityscape, which I was equally impressed how it handled architecture. Like I said, I brought 2 unique cameras to test out, and I now have several of these POV videos up starting in Dubai to here, with both of those full-frame Sonys, my Sony a7C II, a high-resolution true hybrid compact travel camera, and my Sony ZV-E1, maybe the highest quality compact video camera on the market, especially good in low light, and then a bunch of lens options. So I presume that my Pixel 8 Pro would be outgunned on all fronts, so I might as well just leave it in my pocket. And this won't be a full review of the phone, as I've done one of those already, also linked below, but I wanted to get specific here with footage on location to show you why I use my phone more than I thought, and what I think the 2 biggest advantages that the Pixel has over my Sonys. And this first clearly has to be the outrageous focal range. And when you break down that range into numbers, it actually sounds absurd, even though practically speaking, you do get a very versatile tool, allowing you to start with an ultra-wide lens, which is an amazing 11mm equivalent field of view, to then the main camera, which is a standard 25mm lens, and then to a 5 times optical zoom with its telephoto lens for 112mm equivalent. But that's not the end of it, because you can then, with a digital zoom, punch in 30 times. So you effectively get an 11mm to a 750mm in your pocket, which they obviously don't make lenses for cameras with that zoom range. And even with a much bigger bridge camera, you never get something starting that wide. And even if they did have a zoom range for a full frame camera, it would honestly honestly be bigger than me and would need its own seat on the airplane. So having something that versatile on a travel camera is extremely useful. Or you can do what I do, which is not as practical, but still a lot more fun. You can get these crazy crash zooms, which might be a super gimmicky thing to do, but I keep doing it. And maybe it's because you can't do it on a real camera, but here are a few of my favorites. And although I never tell you of these crash zooms, as it's nice to have that range, but for me, I almost entirely stay on one of the 3 lenses, which is the main sticking point for me with reaching for my phone over my other cameras, because when I'm trying to compose a shot, especially with landscapes or architecture, having ultra-wide lenses are essential. And again, equivalent to an 11mm field of view with an aperture of f2.2, so it's super wide and fast. And to get a full-frame lens nearing that, which they don't make, you would have to pay over $2,000 for a massive piece of glass, and this is Sigma's 14mm f1.4, which is brilliant, but bigger than my head, and I have a big head, and it's probably more valuable as well. So it's not something I'd feel safe taking on my travels with me, along needing other mid-range zooms. But again, when I'm on a beach or at the base of a skyscraper, the wider the better. So the fact that I can just reach into my pocket, flip it in ultra-wide, and capture the whole scene with minimal distortion and have it properly exposed, well, that's hard to beat. And this may be the real selling point of smartphones for photography, which has more to do with software, because nailing exposure with your foreground and your background being evenly lit in an instant is sometimes not just hard to do with a proper camera, but might be near impossible without all the right gear, including lights, years of experience, stable weather and lighting conditions, and even then, good luck. So the fact that the phone can do all of this in an instant is really the reason that I'll reach for it, especially when you're trying to capture a sunset, a portrait, or any number of fleeting moments you might have on your holiday without fumbling around with your proper camera. And to be fair, that's why I was so reluctant to go all in some 10 years ago with quote-unquote real photography. But I've been here before several times with my phone and can sort of document the evolution of the tech from 2015 onward in the same setting. And I'm planning on doing a proper smartphone photography video, because as I'm going through all the pics that I have taken from the last decade, there does seem to be a technological leap that happened somewhere between 2015 to 2018 with both phones' hardware and the software. Now, for me, and some may hate this idea, but imagine if Sony incorporated Google's AI photo software within their cameras. Like, imagine you'd have 2 menus, a classic menu, which would keep the camera as is, and then let's say a second menu that you'd call something like the AI enhanced menu, which would allow you to do what Google Photo Apps does, but with the incredible hardware of your camera. So you could just capture photos, edit, and share, say, JPEGs, all within the device as quickly and easily as you can do now with your phone, while maintaining the quality of a full-frame interchangeable lens camera, and also having the raw files to work with you as you do now at home on your laptop, which seems like it would be the best of both worlds and a win-win for both users and manufacturers. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I understand technically how this could be done, or currently why there may be some issues with integrating this into a camera's operating system as is, but that's why I think having the dual menu option, with one being offline and the other maybe with its own data plan or tethered to your phone, would be helpful. And now I wonder how an enhanced menu pick versus a classic menu pick would compare. So in the interim, we can compare my Pixel pics with the Sonys. Not sure if you're like me, but in some instances, my Sony clearly is better. In others, I actually think the Pixel capture what I wanted way better than the Sonys, and way better than I previously presumed. And here's a few more examples. So thank you for your time and attention. I have a bunch more videos about videos like this on the way, so consider following along and subscribing. All right, thanks guys. Bye.